Mark, when the funding from the LSC didn't come to fruition, was it like falling off a cliff?
I've never fallen off a cliff, but it's an interesting metaphor. Yes, simile. It was a real shock because the promises from the LSC had been so strong, and we submitted our application in principle December 17th, I think, which was the due date, and once the application in principle was approved, it hadn't been submitted, but once it had been approved, everybody from the LSC that we'd spoken to said that the money would be ring-fenced and we would be guaranteed the funds. So events after we submitted our application in principle unfolded very rapidly, not just for us but for the entire sector, and there are hundreds of colleges in the same position up and down the country where their plans have had to go on hold or be abandoned or substantially revised. So I'm not sure about going off a cliff because we survived this, but it was a pretty deep blow and we were very shocked and unhappy about it.
But is it any comfort there are a lot of people in the same boat?
Well, not really, no. I should imagine if it had been us and us alone, it would have felt very personal. It's hard to feel that this is personal. It's not personal. It's not just about Palmer's College, it's about the sector. And this is a national failure of the capital funding programme for this sector. Some colleges have benefited and some colleges did go through. Good luck to them. Ours is not going to be progressed, and the LSC said the best thing we can do is find another funder. Having spent £1 million putting this programme together, that's rather disappointing and disheartening to hear, but we'll bounce back.
So you said a national failure, so who do you blame?
Well, it has to be the LSC leadership, and the LSC answers to government, so I think you need to go looking for answers higher up the chain, and the Chief Executive of the Learning and Skills Council resigned as a result of this. Mark Vinall did the honourable thing, so I guess that's part of the accountability, but he is, I believe, the only person who has to date gone.
And so where do you go from here? You certainly have plans, don't you?
We do. Our feeling is that the students in Grays, Thurrock and Palmer's College deserve better than failed promises, and we will develop a new 10-year master plan. We have a lovely old building, but old buildings need a lot of maintenance, and we've developed quite a large programme of maintenance that we'll now have to address. We were hoping that a new building would mean that we could not necessarily have to do all of that maintenance work, but we do have to do it, and we will do it. And at the same time, we'll look at improving our social areas for students, because we've got over 2,000 students here. We get brilliant results here, but in difficult accommodation, in that it was built in the 30s, this building. There's some temporary science accommodation, and we just need to grow. We need to grow to accommodate the number of students and to give them the quality of accommodation that matches the quality of the teaching here. So high quality accommodation for high quality teaching, which in some respects was exactly the LSC agenda: world-class buildings, world-class teaching, and we totally subscribe to that. We want the students here to have the lovely accommodation that they deserve in order to help us deliver their educational aspirations.
Carol, how much harder is your job now?
Not so much harder, it's just different now. Where we were sort of going through and actually building up a capital project, we knew where we were going, we had consultants on board. We haven't got that, as said before, we've already spent £1 million on fees. To go back to the governing board and say, can we have another whole load of money please to build up a project? It's going to be very difficult. So it's different. We have to work in a different way now to decide how we're going to build up a project, where we're going to get the funding from, and really what the overall priorities are. So we're starting various workshops now, getting a lot of input from curriculum side, and it'll be curriculum driven adjustments and refurbishments of the existing building.
So what does workshop mean? Workshops?
Well, we've already met with the senior curriculum managers to find out where they see the curriculum going, I've had meetings with my estates team so that we can actually build up various sort of ideas of immediate maintenance that needs to be done to the building, that we've purposely left with the idea that we were going to have a brand new building within sort of 2 or 3 years. So all that now comes back on board. And also what we need to do and how much money we can actually spend on the development of the building. And then ultimately SMT will then meet, and then we'll then try to work with consultants to push through or produce a 10-year master plan.
I was just going to say that. So it's a 10-year plan. Why 10 years?
I think you've got to be realistic. There's a lot to do, and there's a lot of development to actually do within this particular site. And we have to now raise the money and be able to afford to borrow the money and pay it back. So if we set our targets on a 10-year master plan, if we can do it quicker than that, then that's fine. But at least it means that we're not raising expectations too much and saying we're going to have a master plan that's been sort of going to be done in say 2 or 3 years, only to then have to go back and say we can't do it because we haven't got the funds. You have to be realistic, in this day and age at the moment.